Hi friends and welcome back to another video on this channel. For today's video, I am going to be tier ranking not all of the books, but most of the books because some of the books I did not feel very comfortable ranking them because they were like non-fiction and like memoirs and graphic novels that I don't know, it just didn't feel right to pit them against the other books. So yeah, I'm going to be tier ranking most of the books that I read this year, and we're going to have fun going through most of the books that I read this year. Okay, so just to go over I have to keep reminding myself to talk loud enough because I just realized that I talk too like softly, like I talk too quietly because I'm so conscious that other people are going to hear me. So I'm going to have to force myself to constantly elevate my voice sound level. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and explain my reasoning behind these tier ranking, like tiers. So the first one is bury me with these because when I die, I want to take them to my afterlife. Okay, I want them. I want to continue my love for them. I want to take them to afterlife. I don't want to part with them ever. So like when I die, bury me with these so that I can take them to afterlife. I am over explaining it. You got the point. That's the top tier, the best of the best. The next one is wonderful, excellent, outstanding. Like wonderful, excellent, outstanding books that I mean, I don't mind leaving it in this human realm and I don't want to take them to my afterlife, but they were still really good and highly would recommend reading them. The next one is good times. It was good. It was really good. Like I had fun. You know? Am I making sense? The next one is whatever. Whatever. I don't care for them very much. I don't care for them very much. It's just whatever. The next one is for the specific kind of books that you all, basically people on BookTube, made me read because of how hyped it was here on this in this community. And if BookTube made me read it and I loved it, it's gonna be on the top tiers. So this is BookTube made me read it and I regret it tier, right? The last one is read at your own risk. Proceed with caution. I would not recommend going into this experience, but if you are determined, proceed with caution. Read at your own risk. Self explanatory. So we're going to go over 65 to 70 ish books. I'm not going to tell you the premise because we're going to be here forever, and I'm classically known to talk on and you talk your ears off, basically. Okay, we're gonna get started. The first book here, this is not an order because I purposefully went and jumbled them up. The first one is Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. This is like a witchy retelling of Anne of Green Gables. It's like cozy, middle grade fantasy. That's supposed to be like heartwarming, and it was very heartwarming. I had so much fun with it. So I'm gonna put it in good times, okay? The next one is Diary of a Void by Emi Yagi. This is translated from Japanese. We're following this woman who is trying to, how do I even explain this to you? Like she's trying to navigate her workplace and the sexism in her workplace, and she does it in a wacky way. She basically pretends to be pregnant, but then throughout the book, you're reading it and you're left confused. Like, is she actually pregnant or is she not? So it's kind of like this statement on motherhood and sexism at work misogyny essentially at her workplace. Yeah, it was really good. The next one going to talk about is Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami. I listened to this on audiobook. This you are following, the main characters are these two women who are essentially in love with each other, or one is in love with the other one, but the other one is not like reciprocative of that love. But our narrator is this oh my god, I'm doing such a bad job as usual. Like, we're following this woman who is in love with another woman, and so it's a story about these two women, but our narrator is a guy who's in love with this woman who's in love with the other woman. Am I making sense? Does that make sense? And it's like magical realism. I am not exactly sure I quite grasped the entire, I guess, meaning that was supposed to be conveyed through that book. So I did listen to it on audiobook. So at some point I do want to read it as like words, like an ebook or a physical book. So that is Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami. I would say good times. Yeah. The next one is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I did listen to this also on audiobook. We're essentially following this woman who's having a lot of mental health issues, and she chooses to handle that by taking medications and sleeping for an entire year. And all she is going to do, like when she gets up, she's going to do basic necessities to survive. Like, she's going to eat and change her clothes and, like, do basic necessities. And so we're following her and her friend and, her journey of how she spends this year of hers. So the main character is quite unhinged, if I do say that. It was a good time. Like, it was, yeah, not like a good happy time, but like a good time. That is that. Next one is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is, we're following these two best friends who have lost contact due to various reasons that we get to know throughout the book. And so one of the best friends is poor, and the other one, poor? Yes. The other one is like she's married to a rich guy, like senator or something. And so she contacts the poor friend. I do not remember their names. So rich friend and poor friend are going to be their names. Not that that's their only characteristic feature, but obviously not. Like, but that's the thing that is easy to distinguish in the premise. Oh my god, I'm already talking your ears off about one book. We have 60 plus books to go through. Please get it together, okay? So she writes a letter to the poor friend. The rich one, she writes a letter to the poor friend and asking her to come to her place to take care of her two stepchildren. And the spin on this is that the two stepchildren happen to spontaneously combust if they get too emotional or angry or whatever. So our poor friend is moved to the rich friend's house, and she's having to take care of these two children. And it's about how she falls in love with them, and it's like a found family. It's cute. Okay. There is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. It was a good time. Yeah, and it's very short as well. The next one I read is Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. This is like a retelling of Mahabharata from Panchali's perspective, from Draupadi's perspective. It was good. It was good. So, yeah. The next one I'm going to talk about is Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. This, you're following our main character. I mean, I did talk about this in my best books of the year, but I feel like I did not do it justice. But I don't know if I'm going to do any book justice because I keep rambling for many hours and I still never get to the point. So this was wonderful. I talked about it on my best books of the year video. So the next one is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is a classic. Like, I'm sure everybody knows the premise of this book. The next one is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I listened to this on audiobook. It was a crazy time, actually. It was really crazy. It was actually really good. I had so much fun. I mean, fun, you know. Fun is not always like light-hearted fun. Like sometimes even crazy, wacky, sad stuff was also fun. So, next one is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This I also listened to on audiobook. It was actually so much fun. The world, the setting was really fun. I really loved Julian's character. but I don't know. The ending seemed a little off to me. Like I don't know. I did not. I wasn't 100% with the ending. So I'm gonna put it in good times. Yeah. I just realized I haven't been telling the premise. The premise of Yellowface is that we're following this two best friends, no, best friends, they're frenemies essentially, and they're both writers. One is Chinese American, I believe, the other one is just white. And so something happens, and the Chinese American one, who's more successful in her writing career, dies, and the white one, I think her name is June. What is the Chinese American's name? I'm so bad at remembering names. So June essentially steals her friend's manuscript, which is about Chinese soldiers, and she publishes it as her own. And she kind of changes her online persona to seem racially ambiguous, and you're following her and her descent into insanity. Yeah, it's fun that way. It's really wacky fun. And it's like I feel like I don't know much about the publishing world, and through this I kind of learned so much from the publishing and the author side of the things. Like as a reader, I'm on this side. Like I seldom get to see that aspect of writing and publishing books. So yeah, the next one is Pizza Girl by Jean Kyung Frazier. I talked about it in my best books of the year video, so you can go watch that. The next one is Bookworm by Robin Eatman or Yetman. I talked about it in my worst books of the year, so. Next one is Bunny by Mona Awad. This I listened to an audiobook. It was crazy. It was confusing. And I don't know if I still know what went, like, what's going on. We're following this girl. Her name is Samantha something. Samantha something. And she is in this class, creative writing class, I believe, with a workshop something with four other women, and they're in kind of this cult-like group, and they call each other Bunny, and so it's Samantha's involvement with them, and she does, essentially join their cult, and become a bunny herself, and then it's this confusing, like, it's supposed to be like a critique on academia. I don't think I got any of that. So okay, the next one is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I ranted about this on my worst books of the year. So moving on, the next one is The Poppy War by RF Kwong. This I also listened to an audiobook, probably a mistake, but I don't think I would have picked it up if it was not an audiobook because it's intimidating. It's so intimidating. We're following Rin. It's a fantasy war fantasy. There's gods and shamans. That's the vibe of it. And it's very traumatic. Lots of trigger warnings. Very traumatic. And it's very long, and kind of dark and gruesome. I have heard that it's a trilogy, right? So the second and the third book just get worse, like get darker and more traumatic. So I'm a little scared. Not a little, I'm extremely scared. So I don't know when I'll pick up the rest of the trilogy, but not anytime soon. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know it's very well loved. That was like a traumatic adventure, like traumatic ride. But I did like being in Rin's head, and I listen. She's not a likable character, okay? But I think I understand her character's progression, and in that way, I thought it was well done. And so I suggested it to my brother, and he hated it. I did not hate it. I actually liked it, but just not enough, Like, okay, maybe, but a part of me feels really bad saying that all that war and trauma was a good time. Actually, it was a good time, but not in a happy way at all. It was very traumatic. So, you know. The next one is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmes. This also I listened to an audiobook. I actually really enjoyed it. It's also kind of dark because it's basically this woman who's a chemist in somewhere in the past, maybe 1950s, 1960s. I don't know, but basically, her workplace is deeply, deeply misogynistic. She suffers so much misogyny, and it's very sad in that way. Actually, it's very sad. I really loved the main character, Elizabeth Zott. I remember her name, and she has a dog named 630. It's named 630 because it's a stray dog that came into her house, or she came across that dog at 6:30. Like the time was 6:30 when she came across that dog, and so she named it 6:30. I think that's so funny. Yeah. So the next one is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. I listened to this on audiobook. I talked about it in the best books of my year video. So the next one is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren. This is childhood friends to lovers romance told in dual timeline. Yeah, like the past and the present. When they've fallen apart and now they're reconnecting. So that's the present. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. It was like, it honestly could just go in whatever. But like, I didn't care for it. Like, I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Like, okay, moving on. The next one is my most recent read, and that is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is very low fantasy to even call it romantasy. Like, there's barely any fantasy. It's essentially like a war romance novel, and it's young adult, and the romance is peak, okay? And I read it and I was gushing the whole time, and so I vlogged it. And watch out for that. That is Divine Revels by Rebecca Ross. The next one is Confessions by Kane Minato. I listened to this on audiobook, and oh my god, it's very short, and it packs a punch like a this we are following a middle school teacher, I believe, and she recently lost her daughter. She's convinced that her students have killed her daughter, and so we're following multiple perspectives, and every chapter is the twists and turns and the psychological. It was peak. Okay, it was really good. It was excellent. The next one I read is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I listened to this on audiobook. I don't know, I didn't care for it. We're following these two friends. I mean, I don't care for it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. The next one is a graphic novel, probably the only graphic novel that I've put on this list to rank. It's called Other Ever Afters by Melanie Gilman. I talked about this on my Best Books of the Year video, so go watch that. The next one is In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. This one made its way into my Worst Books of the Year. Yeah, I did not like it. The next one is After Dark by Haruki Murakami. This is so short, and I had such a good time reading this. But like I don't know if I like fully understood the concepts or like what I was trying to say. I don't know if I fully understood that. Like, so definitely want to reread it. So I, for now, would say, yeah. The next one is The Push by Ashley Audrain. Made its way into my best books of the year. So watch that video. Perfection. Okay, perfection. The next one is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Listen, I have read 3 Emily Henry books so far, and this is the only one I read as an ebook. The other two I listened to an audiobook. So by this time, I was like, see, I picked it up when I was in a mood. I wanted a light, I mean, I wanted a romance book. I just wanted some happy romance. and I wanted to feel something in my cold, icy heart. And so I was like, you know what? Everybody loves Emily Henry. And I have tried two books by her and wasn't very successful. But maybe it's just the format, maybe I'm just listening to it and it's not working that way. And so maybe I should just read it with my eyeballs. It could just be in booktube made me do it, but the thing is, my booktube made me read it category is supposed to be like books that I picked up only because of booktube. But Beach Read I picked up because I was in a romance mood. Like I wanted a romance book. This did not satisfy that, but you're like, yeah, there's no reasoning behind which tier each of these go to. I'm just gonna go off the vibes and. The next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is like a YA murder mystery, young adult murder mystery. It wasn't bad. Listen, it was not bad. I just don't care for it. And I feel like I picked it up only because there was so much hype. Everybody was raving about it. And I was like, you know what? I want to know. I want to know. And now I know. The next one is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I picked this up because Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson is so popular, and I was like, I want to try out her writing, and this was available on audiobooks. I was like, you know what, I want to listen to that. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, it was bad. I did not like it. I mean, it wasn't like the worst or anything. I just, I did not have a good time. The next one is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. This is like a non-fiction. It's a memoir, and probably the only memoir, one of the two memoirs that made its way into this list. And I talked about it in my Best Books of the Year video, so go check that out. And yeah, the next one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Listen, everybody loves this. Everybody loves this. Every video I watch, including this book, having this book as a part of the video, they're talking about how much they loved it. And at this point, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, it's got to be me, right? Like, what? Yeah, it was not good. It made its way into my worst books of the year. So, but like really, booktube made me do it. Booktube made me do it, but it's bad. It was bad. Oh my god, it happened one summer. Is peak booktube made me do it, because the only reason I picked it up because of how hyped it was, but it was very bad. So I'm gonna put it in the last category. The next one is Tressa the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is like a cozy fantasy, and it made its way into my best books of the year. So wonderful, excellent, outstanding. It was so much fun. The world building was so good. It was so much fun. I did not particularly like the ending, but again, I went into details in my best books of the year video. So go check that out if you want to know my thoughts. The next one is In the Company of Bitches by Aurelie Wallace. I talked about this on my best books of the year video. And okay, that's moving on. The next one is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I listened to this on an audiobook. It was so much fun. You were essentially following a Pacific giant octopus and this cleaning lady at this aquarium in which the giant octopus is. And there's a little bit of mystery and it's kind of sad. The octopus is one of the main characters. Like we get so many chapters from the octopus's point of view. So it's kind of it was sweet and sad and fun, you know. The next one is Anne of Green Gables. I did talk about this in my best books of the year video. So go check that out. The next one is another Emily Henry book. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and talk about both the Emily Henry books back to back. The next two Emily Henry books, the next two are Emily Henry books that I listened to on audiobook, both of them. I know she's so well loved. That's why I gave her books so many chances. I wanted to love them. And initially, when I was reading Beach Read, the first couple of chapters, I was really invested. And I was like, oh my god, am I gonna become one of the romance girlies? Oh my god. And I was happy about it, but then did not land. So it wasn't bad by any means at all. Like, I did like book lovers. I did like Charlie as a character and Nora as like, oh my god, I remember their names. I did like the characters. I just didn't care for their romance. All the romance is nice, but it doesn't really hit in my feels, in my cold, icy heart. I have overused that phrase. But anyway, it just does not. You know, I, I don't care for the romance, and her. I feel like her books try to take up other conversations. Like Beach Read takes up the conversation of grief. Book Lovers talks about like family dynamics, especially between sisters and all of that. I just feel like it takes up this conversation, and it never really gets anywhere with it. Like it never really gets deep into that conversation. I mean, oh my god, I feel so bad saying this. Like, dare I say it feels superficial? Because maybe it's just me. It's just me not, connecting to those conversations, to those characters, feeling grief. I just feel like it does not go there. Like something is missing, you know? Anyway, moving on. The next one is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This made its way into the best books of my year. So it was wonderful. It was so wonderful. So go watch that. The next one, I just saw the next one, but I was going to say go watch that video if you want to know more thoughts. But the next one is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie. Y'all, this made me so happy. Like, I did talk about it in my best books of the year video, but like, oh my god, it made me so happy. It's okay. Moving on. The next one is The X Hex by Erin Sterling. This is like a majorly romance, but there's a little bit of fantasy, and obviously the main characters are witches. I didn't care for it. The next one is Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabahattin Ali. This is a Turkish classic that I talked about in my best books of the year. Moving on. The next one is Sally Rooney. The next book is before. The next book is Beautiful World Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I listened to this on audiobook, okay. I did listen to Conversations with Friends also on audiobook. So both of the narrators, I believe, have an Irish accent. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm not exactly sure if I remember that properly. I'm pretty sure Beautiful World Where I Use narrator does have an Irish accent, and that was part of why I liked it. You're following two best friends, Eileen and Alice, and they're essentially romantic, but not so romantic. It's complicated partners. Eileen's is Simon, and Alice's is Felix. And recently, Alice moved away from Eileen, so they're kind of now long distance best friends, and they're keeping in touch via email. Can you tell me if you moved away from your best friend? Can you tell me if you would email them? That is pretentious as. But then their emails are not even like casual emails. They write fully like newsletter. They write newsletters to each other. And I think that is pretentious. That is so pretentious. And initially it was a little jarring. I was like, huh, are you serious? But then I got used to it, and I was like, these two women are just kind of weird, but you know. Again, I don't know if I fully grasped everything that the book was trying to say, but I like the conversation about climate, and like there is this money disparity, wealth disparity between these friends. Like one is rich and one is not as rich. And at some point, they even have like a not exactly a fight because like because of their money issues, but like kind of, if I'm remembering it correctly. So that was interesting. And Eileen is involved but not involved with this guy Simon, who's much older than her, if I am remembering correctly. um yeah, and their relationship dynamic, it was very interesting. And yeah, I might have to reread it again to grasp. So I would say it was excellent. Or no, yeah, it was a good time. Yeah. The next one is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This made its way into my best books of the year, so it was excellent. It was so cute. It was so good. It was so good. The next one is The Cruel Prince. And I just have the first book here, but I did read the trilogy as well as the novella and the novella between the first and second books. It's called The Lost Sisters. And it's essentially a letter from Taryn to Jude, and the collection of short stories. It's called How the King of Elfheim Learned to Hate Stories. Yeah, so I did essentially read everything within that world that was available. I still haven't read The Stolen Area though, because I want to read it closer to the release of Prisoner's Throne. This is essentially a young adult fantasy wherein our human girl and her twin and her elder sister are taken to the like the fairy world. And the fairies are mean, and so she's having to, and they're immortal, right? So she's having to essentially try her best to survive there against all odds. It was really good. Yeah, it was really good. It was such a good time. I had so much fun with that series. The next one is Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. I listened to it and I was like, I cannot care less about what is going on. Like, I was so bored. I was so bored. Not that cozy mystery is not my thing, okay? Literally, there's a cozy mystery in my toppest of top tiers. I just didn't care for it. Okay, I don't know. The next one is the Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. I listened to this on audiobook and it was such a good. This is a romance. We have two couples in this, and our main couple are assistant to the other couple. So the other couple is like a famous something. Okay, I don't remember, but they're famous for something, and they've also written a book about their relationship, but their relationship is fraying, like it's shattering, but they're trying to keep it together to seem like a good couple, because it's like part of the promotion that they have to do for their book that they've written about relationships. And so these famous people just go and do whatever they want according to their whims, and there's so much drama between them, and it's so fun. It shouldn't be funny because it's not exactly a very light-hearted topic, but the way they behave, and our main characters are having to clean their tracks essentially, so that the public does not get to know about their dirty laundry. So it's kind of really well done in my opinion. And the main couple's chemistry was really good. The third act conflict was really good. It's short and sweet, and it's fast paced, and the romance is good, and the conflict was good. There was so much tension, but also like good tension. It was really good. In my opinion, it was really good. One of my favorite romances that I've read. So yeah. The next one is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is YA mystery, not a murder mystery. Honestly, I just didn't care for it. I could not care for the characters. I could not care for the romance, for the love triangle. I did not care for the mystery. I just did not care. It seemed the at least the first part of it seemed too fast paced, almost like things were just happening, and I was like, hold up, what is going on? And yeah, it was. The next one is one of my recent reads. I listened to this on audiobook. It was so well written. This is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. It's like a dark, gothic love story. It's young adult. I just didn't like it. It also has like a murder mystery aspect that was okay. We follow our main character, Signa, who's 20 years old, and is not, she's very vulnerable at this moment in her life, wherein she's trying to fit into society, and she's trying to hold on to people and not lose them to death, because in her past she has always lost her dear ones to death. It's essentially a love story between 20-year-old Signa and death itself, who is as old as life itself. I just don't like it. I just don't like the young woman who is not fully, even like, she's not fully grown into herself, and she's not fully established in her life, like she's not fully in her life, you know what I mean? And so she's impressionable, and she's vulnerable, and this old as fuck mythical creature comes and romances them, and I'm like, listen, taking a liking to this only person who can see you and talk to you, I understand that, because I'm sure it gets lonely being a grim reaper. But like, he's sexually attracted to her, like the physical aspect, I'm like, "Ugh, disgusting." So like, I did not like it, but yeah. The next one is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. I listened to it on audiobook, and we're following this young girl. I don't remember how old she is, but she's very young. She's probably less than 10 years old. And she's recently lost her grandmother. This is not a spoiler. We get to know that in the first couple of chapters. And her grandmother leaves her letters, which she can follow and discover essentially herself and make more friends and learn about her grandmother before, who she was before she became our main character's grandmother. It's really sweet. It talks about grief. It's told from this young child's perspective. It made my inner child so happy. It's sad but sweet, that is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. No, it was excellent. The next one is We Had to Remove This Post or something like that. Wait a second. We Had to Remove This Post by Hannah Berwitz. We're following this group of people who were hired for social media like Facebook or Instagram, and their job is to go through the many, many posts that are flagged for inappropriate content or violent content, and they have to go through that and decide whether they can stay up because they're not actually violating any of their platform's rules, or they have to actually be taken down because they are violating the platform's rules. So they are on a daily basis coming into contact with so much violence and gore and like things that are disturbing, and like it would mess with a person's head, their mental health, you know so we're following them, and it's a very short book. I don't even remember much from it. I just remember like like bits and pieces of it. I don't think I fully understood what it was trying to say, and it's very open ended, like the ending is very open. So how I feel about it is like, oh yeah, I read it, but I feel bad putting this in such a low rank, because I'm like, maybe it was trying to say something very significant, and it's kind of not fair to put that, essentially with like a romance novel. Not that romance novels don't have their place, but like, you know, am I making sense? Most probably not. The next one is moving on. The next one is Dialect for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is like a wacky, cozy murder mystery. So we are following this woman who she goes on a date and she accidentally kills her date. and she calls up on her aunties and her mother. She has three aunties, and they essentially have this wedding catering or like business. Like one of them is like they cook food, and one of them is like a flower decorator, one of them is like a hairdresser, stuff like that. She's a photographer, right? So they have this wedding planning party. I don't know, man. So she goes to this wedding. We just follow her trying to cover up her murder essentially that she has committed. And it's very wacky. Like, you have to suspend your disbelief to read this. It's crazy, but it's so much fun. I had so much fun reading it. See, I can read a cozy mystery and have fun with it. So, like, Finley Donovan not clicking for me is not exactly, does not exactly mean that that genre is not for me. This was so much fun. It was such a good time. It was so wacky, such a good time. The next one is Ghosts by Dolly Alderton. I listened to this on audiobook. Listen, I think this is what Conversations with Friends was trying to do. Whatever Conversation with Friends by Sally Rooney was trying to do, this book did so much better. We're following our main character and her friend who are both single. Her friend is obsessed with trying to put herself out into the dating market, and she wants somebody. So she's like desperate almost. And she's not as desperate, but like she still is single, and she wants to be with somebody. And both of them do get involved with men at some point, and it's not the best relationship for both of them. And into this is thrown our main character's father is having some sort of Alzheimer's, or maybe some sort of neurodegenerative situation where he's losing his memories. And yeah, so she's seeing him essentially slowly slip away right in front of her eyes. And so she's dealing with that grief, and her mother is also dealing with that grief, but in her own way. So it's kind of like this family dynamic between them, that they kind of disagree on so many things. It's very sad, but also almost like, I don't know what, but I feel like it's something that would hold up a mirror to your face, like for you to look into your emotions. And like, I don't know what am I saying, but I felt very, it made me feel connected to my emotions, almost like it held up a mirror and showed me my emotions so that I can get a better understanding of myself. How exactly, I don't know, but that's how I felt. Okay. Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. I had fun, but like not fun, not happy fun, but I had so much fun with it. I think it was excellent. So well done. The next one is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. Wait. Yes, Morgan Rogers. This is, I listened to it on audiobook. We're following this girl who gets married in Vegas, but she's like a very type A personality. So just getting married in Vegas on a whim is so out of character for her. So she's kind of confused about that. And she's also having a hard time at her in her career because she's a perfectionist, and her career is not going the way she wants to. So, and her father is very hard on her, so she's kind of dealing with that. And then there's this romance between her, the one she got married to in Vegas. Her name is Susie. Suki, yes, her name is Suki. So she thinks Suki is very pretty. So she has this beautiful wife all of a sudden. And so she goes and lives with Suki and her roommates. And it's kind of like that found family. It was sweet. It had so much of telling rather than showing. Like, so much of her aspects of her difficulty in her career was just told to you and not really shown to you. That could have been done better, in my opinion. I did like the romance plot, so it was okay. Yeah, it was okay. It was not bad. It was okay. You know? The next one is Pachinko by Minjin Lee. This made its way into the best books of my year. Yes. Moving on. The next one is the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's essentially a story about Evelyn Hugo, who was this really, really popular Hollywood star. And now she's old, and she's essentially telling her story of how she came to marry seven husbands and her story with each of them. I did like it. It was okay. I am so sorry. Honestly, I thought I would love it so much more because of how popular it is, how everybody loves, like everybody seems to love it. But it was okay. It was good. Yeah. Moving on, this is a Wattpad book that I read. It's called The Witches on Belarus Street. Yeah, it was. Oh my god, I feel so bad. You know what? I am not going to put it in. Read it at your own risk. No, you know what? It was actually bad. But I feel so bad being mean to Wattpad books. I am so sorry. L.J. Near, who's the author of this. But I did not like that book. I am so sorry. I talked about it in the worst books of my year, so you can watch that if you want to know my thoughts on it. The next one is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I wanted to love it, and then I wanted me to watch that TV show, and then I wanted me to love that as well. But I mean, I think it's just maybe I just had such a hype in my head that I did not live up to it. It was good. It was good. Okay, it was very interesting to read like a novel in completely dialogues. It was really interesting. I'm sorry. Next one is another Taylor Jenkins Reid is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This we're following this couple of siblings who are children of Mick Riva, who is a character we get introduced to in both Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo as well as Daisy Jones and the Six, and he's a shit dad. And so we're following them essentially throughout their tumultuous childhood and their present day life, wherein they're throwing a party, and we are told that this party ends in a house fire. And so, yeah, it's just peak family drama, and I loved it. I ate it up. It was so much fun, but not like, again, happy fun, but like family drama fun, you know? That is my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. So, the next one is, my god, I ranted about this on my worst books of the year, and it's only 30 pages. I have said more words than could fill up more than 30 pages about this book, this short story. It's called The Bookstore Sisters by Alice Hoffman, and I hated it. Moving on, we have The Adventures of Amina Al Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is by far the longest fantasy book I've I have read, and probably the most high fantasy novel. Like, I usually just read not as high fantasy, like mostly young adult, and like there's not much world building. This was a ride. This was an adventure. It was so much fun. I had so much fun reading it. I swear it was excellent, excellent, excellent. The next one is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa, I believe. Yeah, this we're following a guy and his cat, and it's like a collection of four short stories. And in each short story, he goes to one of his friend's house, stays there for a while, and we get to know their backstory, how they became friends, and all of that. And he essentially, we're told he's looking for a place for his cat to stay because of some reason he will not be able to keep his cat. So he wants one of his friends to take over and take care of his cat. It's told from the cat's perspective, which is the sweetest. I swear this was the sweetest, and I sobbed at the ending. I just, okay, moving on. Okay, the next book is I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya. This is the other nonfiction, like memoir-ish. It's very short. That's why I'm telling it's memoir-ish, because it's like not like a full memoir. In this, Vivek Shraya is essentially talking about her experiences, not exactly like throughout her childhood, but like in her past with women, sorry, with men, as a gender non-conforming person, as a trans woman of color, especially. She is, I don't know if of Indian origin, but at least of South Asian origin. But by her name, it sounds like she's Indian. I don't know. Yeah, so she's talking about her experiences with men, like the people she's dated. Um, yeah, and like they start this conversation about masculinity itself, and I don't know. I didn't feel like it was like a very novel conversation, but it's always nice to have another perspective, like another person's story into that conversation, about how what we expect from men being like our expectations being low is kind of keeping and us celebrating whenever they meet those low expectations, basic expectations, and we kind of celebrate them all like, oh, he's a good man, but he's done is just like do the bare minimum. And that kind of low expectation keeps them in that cycle of not exactly being comfortable in their masculinity, and hence that is also part of rooted in misogyny, right? Oh my god, whenever I try to have like a semi intelligent conversation, even like I feel like not even getting the point right. I'm so dumb. Anyway, yeah, it was an interesting read, and I felt like it was valuable. So, excellent. Okay, moving on. The next one is a Wattpad book that I read, and that is Ruby Red Threads by Aki Ramado. That is their Wattpad handle. At least that was their Wattpad handle the last time I checked. This is like a young adult romance, a little bit of magical realism. It's like coming of age, discovering your sexuality, but also about like loneliness and the expectations you have as a young adult and found family. I talked about this in my best books of the year, so you can watch that. The next uh, three are my DNFs, so they should not even be here, ideally, because I did not even read them. I have no right to rank them. I talked about it in my worst books of the year because it was a DNF, not because it was a worst book, because it was not even a book I finished. Honestly, I want to read this, okay, but I'm still going to put it in whatever. You know, moving on. The last book here is also a Wattpad book. It's called Bonbons to Yoga Pants by Katie Cross. This, I think it's also available for you to read as an ebook, like it's self published. This is about this girl who is grieving the loss of her father, and she's kind of trying to mend her relationship to food and herself, her body. She has this thin and really pretty sister who sometimes likes to taunt her, if I am remembering it correctly. And her relationship to her mother, which is not, she's not really been close to her mother, but now that her dad is, not with them anymore, her mother is the only parent she has. And she also has this crush on this guy, but then she feels like she's not good enough for him because she's plus size. Now that I'm talking about it, was actually good, but then I just don't think it was explored well enough. Like it wasn't bad. There was like no fat phobic messaging or anything. It was okay. It wasn't bad at all. Not at all. It was not badly done, at least in my opinion. But it was just not very good. Yeah, so that concludes it. I've been sitting here and talking forever. So, any of these books that you have read, let me know your thoughts. And I hope you liked it. It's gotten very dark. I hope you liked this video. See you in the next video. Hope you have a great time until then. And if you liked this video, like it, subscribe, and see you. Bye bye.